Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project copyrighted edition for our video page. Thanks for being here. And this is a missing person segment. But as many of you, the vast majority of you told me, Dave, you do your talking at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to do a little talking. So first of all, a very nice lady named Karen said, Dave, I know I shouldn't have, but as soon as I saw this, I couldn't help myself. It reminded me so much of you and what you stand for. Black t-shirt, American flag. I can't believe this is on it. Bald eagle, and another flag. Awesome, 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 Karen. Thank you. This will go in the front row to wear daily, and I mean it. Thank you. Everyone knows I'm a big supporter of MUFON. I've been a MUFON investigator for decades. I speak at their conferences. I was their keynote speaker last year at their annual conference. So I got this from them the other day and I almost fell out of my chair. Here's why. This is the 50th anniversary memorial, and this is what they put out. Folks, that is what's on my movie. Can you believe that? I couldn't believe it. So if you go to MUFON, MUFON.com, you can purchase this. And I tell you what, they did a really good job with it. 55th anniversary, 1969 to 2024. Oh, yeah, I like that one a lot. It's going to go just above my desk where I can do it no harm. And then people understand, you know what, I don't care if I offend anybody because just the facts. I'm a Christian. I don't try to hide it. I don't try to push it on anybody. I'm not here to convince anybody. But I got this really nice note. I'm going to read it to you. Hey Dave, I've been listening to your videos for 3 years and I also have your movies and books. I've enjoyed them all. I must say that you have been a blessing to me as well as my mom. I play music professionally and do lots of traveling. I was up late one night while on the road and came across one of your missing persons videos and immediately subbed, and I've been a member of the village ever since that night. My mom has lost 2 children in the last 4 years, and I shared some of your videos about Ben. And have you been able to help many others? Wow. She really enjoys listening to you. We both are grateful and appreciative of your work. I'm sending you a few of my CDs, the gospel group Infinity from Oakland, California. I know that you lived and worked in Northern Cal as well. Thank you for your service to the community as an officer. Well, enjoy the music. It's just a gift to say thank you for all what you do. Kindness and liberty. Thanks, Marcus. Yes, I'm the one on the left in the new video. So, this is what they sent me. I'm guessing that's Marcus. Never met the man. Love to meet him someday. And they sent me Infinity, New Direction. Infinity. And Infinity, Show Me the Way. Infinity, Show Me the Way. Infinity, New Direction. If you like gospel music, I would recommend this group highly. They are really good. So, for what it's worth. Thank you so much, Marcus, for thinking of us. And it does my soul good to hear that people listen and my trials and tribulations in dealing with Ben's death. How that has affected me. If I can help anybody out there, that helps me. So thank you. Recently I put up a series of videos about Big Sur, California. There was a series of disappearances there. And I can't explain this, but when the team starts working on something, they're not all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for different things. But it's very odd the way things come to us when we're not looking for it. As in today's segment, it's a segment about two people. One was 68, one was 67. Both, mature. And both disappeared in the desert. And we weren't looking for them in the desert. They just disappeared there. So, start off the first case. I have never highlighted a missing person that was Filipino. This case involves a lady named Maria Pomona Estrada, 67 years old, missing June 7th, 2008 at 6 p.m. 5'3", 5'3" tall, 128 pounds. This is the part that gets me mad. I don't know how someone can get this so wrong. But one article says that she's living in the Philippines and staying in Blythe for 4 months with family and friends. Another article the same day says she lives in La Quinta. Well, La Quinta's a really nice area. And I did a massive search. And I can usually get searches done that other people can't because I think I've told you before, I'm a licensed private investigator, so we have access to software and databases that the public doesn't. And I found nothing about her. So I'm going to guess that she's a Filipino resident staying here. She was last seen wearing a white blouse, denim shorts, and white tennis shoes. And she was wearing a cap, like a baseball cap that said San Luis Obispo on it. She was hiking with a friend in the Mojave National Preserve. Essentially, it's national park property. And it's under their direction and control, 40 miles northwest of Needles, California. So here's Needles. And then this line right here, this line represents, I'm going to get it for you, hold your taters. This line right there is the California-Nevada border. Needles in California. Mojave City, Bullhead City, Cal Neva, all this is in Nevada. So this is the Dead Mountains Wilderness area. This is where they were, the Fort Paiute Trail in the Mojave National Preserve. This was the lady that disappeared. She was hiking with a friend, and her friend later told authorities that she wasn't carrying food or water. Her hiking partner that reported this was 64 years old. She was 67. They came to a fork in the trail. And they were trying to decide which fork in the trail went to the car. So what they said was, you go one way, I'll go the other. And when we figure it out, come back to that fork and just wait for the other. The friend waited at the fork. Maria never came back. And this was a ravine just west of Fort Paiute. So this is a close-up version of the other map I showed you. Here's Fort Paiute. They would have been just west near Paiute Springs. Now, Paiute Springs, that's not like water coming out of the ground. This is a super dry desert. If you didn't bring water in there, oh, huge mistake. I don't care what the season. You bring water all the time. Now, the description per the National Park Service of the area they were in said that the Mojave National Preserve is a diverse mosaic of ecological habitat with a 10,000-year history of human connected with the desert. It offers extensive opportunities to experience desert landscapes. The preserve promotes understanding and appreciation for the increasing threatened resources of the Mojave Desert. Now, Fort Paiute, the area that they were in, I saw pictures of the road, and I would not drive my truck down there. Maybe the Jeep, maybe, but I would probably ensure that I had somebody else with me in another vehicle. It is very rugged, very rocky, and not maintained per the Park Service. The fort has an elevation of 2,828 feet. It was originally an outpost of Camp Katy and later Fort Mojave. It was constructed to protect wagon migration along the Mojave Road during 1859 to 1870. There are remains of the old fort on Mojave Road, and what you see is giant boulders stacked like in the frame of a building, because there's not much out there to make a building. Rocks. And the most interesting part to me is looking at the history of the area. They had petroglyphs on rocks in that area, and if you look it up, you'll see them. I've always found petroglyphs fascinating as they tell a story of the area. Well, the hiking partner comes back. It's getting dark. Maria hasn't been back, so he starts, I shouldn't say he, because they never said it was a he or a she. They started looking for her, and they couldn't find her. I don't believe that they would have driven their car out this road. So this person had a long hike back to where their vehicle was. And it wasn't until the next afternoon that they called the authorities, and they explained what happened. Just hours later, that would have been on June 8th, the San Bernardino County Sheriff flew a helicopter into the area with a spotter looking for Maria, because they knew minutes were important. Now, this was June. Temperatures could be anywhere from low 80s to mid hundreds, 105. The climate there is all over the map, but it's always hot. Even in the winter, it can be up to 75 degrees, 80 degrees. So they knew they had just minimal time. Well, they flew and they didn't find anything. So the next day, the National Park Service and the sheriff worked together to divide that area up. And they put multiple canine teams in that area. Very hot conditions, very dry, and the rocks are sharp in this area. And what I mean by that, sometimes you go into an area, and if there's a lot of water, the rocks tumble and they take their sharp edges and they're off and they're all rounded and nice and smooth. When you take search and rescue canines into some volcanic areas and to some areas like this, the dogs can actually cut their paws up. And every once in a while you'll see canine search and rescue dogs wearing like little shoes over their paws. And I have great concern over dogs going into areas like this. And sometimes the ground can be so hot it can burn them. Well, each day they put in also 15 to 20 ground pounders. Thank you for the comments on a video several days ago. A couple of Marines and a couple other people said, Dave, somebody who complained about you using the word ground pounder, that it may insult a veteran, tell them to essentially screw off. You keep using that. That's your language. You're not insulting anybody. The ground pounders are doing good work, so you just keep using it. Well, I know I insulted somebody, but the response was overwhelming. Keep using it. So I will keep using it. The ground pounders were brought in. Tough hiking because of the weather. But I looked all over. I probably looked at 400 or 500 pictures of that area. There's some thick bushes, but there's not a lot of cover there. That's why a helicopter that they brought in San Bernardino County that first day was really smart and a wise thing to do. Now, they only searched for 3 or 4 days. They didn't find anything. Nothing. So here's some advice for people who don't know anything about the desert environment. You're going into it, you bring 3 times the amount of water that you would normally bring. And you will need it all. And the National Park Service has control of this case. And I'm sure that there's a National Park Service special agent somewhere that has this filed in his drawer collecting dust. There's no National Park Service photos of this lady online. They said like 2 lines about the case. I've covered more about this case than they did. They never released the name of her partner or the partner's background or where they came from. Nothing. That's super rare. So a lot of this case is mysterious, but here's the fact. Maria Estrada is still missing. If I lived within 100 miles of that, in the winter I'd be all over that range. And why is that? Winter temperatures can be anywhere between like 55 during the day, 50 up to 80. It's actually a nice environment. During the winter, the snakes are in the ground and they're not crawling around. I'm like Indiana Jones. I don't love snakes, especially rattlesnakes. So, for what it's worth. Anyhow, that's case number 1. Case number 2. Also a desert case. This time it's in Arizona. It involves a man named Joe Domin. And his buddies and his hiking companions called him GPS Joe. GPS Joe. Went missing November 15th, 2010. I should say that that's the day that he was reported missing. And he went missing northeast of Phoenix, Arizona, at a mountain trailhead called Mount Pelee. And it's also the mountain trailhead for Sheep Mountain. 68 years old. When he went missing, he'd now be 81. When I read about Joe, I liked him. This is Joe. He was retired. He had a lot of hiking friends. His life was hiking. It was the mountains. That's why they called him GPS Joe. I probably read several hundred pages of blogs, etc. about Joe. Nobody said a mean thing about him. Everyone loved him. I wish I'd met him. I'd like to go hiking with him. He had his residence in Gilbert, Arizona. He was born and raised in Pennsylvania. His vehicle was a 2005 Toyota 4Runner with Arizona plates. He liked to find new routes to different places. He didn't like hiking trails all the time. If there was a big mountain out there, then he'd try to find the way up that nobody else had done. He was extremely healthy and active for his age. 100% dedicated to climbing, exploring the outdoors. He lived alone, and he had a son named Chris that lived in Chicago. In 2009, he had made 3 different attempts to climb Mount Pelee up different routes that nobody had tried, and he had failed each time. Now again, there's like a highway that goes to the summit. It's so well identified, but that wasn't what Joe was interested in. Joe lived alone, but he had so many friends that he spoke to regularly, got onto forums, climbing forums, etc. But he was also a very well-educated sort. I'll get into that in a second. On November 14th, on November 7th and 8th, Joe had reached out to some people asking them if they could go climbing. They couldn't. He didn't say anything to them. But the area that he was climbing near Mount Pelee had been severely impacted by a 2004 willow fire, and then after he disappeared, a 2012 sunflower fire. Now that upsets me. There was a big fire that went through an area. There's a good probability there's hardly any remains at all available to find of Joe. Now the trailhead, it says on climbing logs that it's 2 miles to Mount Pelee. That gets you to the top of a saddle, and then the trail is below the summit. Nobody knew what route Joe was going to take. Friends said that it's almost a guarantee he was carrying a Garmin GPS and 2 cameras. He liked to take pictures. An Olympus EPA-L camera and a Lumix digital camera. He was wearing a black vest, thick cargo pants, and a thick cargo shirt, and a backpack with a large water bottle inside. Now, this is the other part of the story that bugs me. Anytime someone's carrying a lot of equipment, when people start to get seriously stressed, deathly, and I'm talking deathly tired, they start dropping things. Nobody's reported finding anything of Joe's. But a friend on November 15th hadn't heard from Joe in several days. And they went to Joe's home and they found his car gone. But what they also found was a package on the doorstep. And they looked, and the delivery date on it was November 9th. Well, everybody knew that Joe had last emailed everybody on November 7th. So they were pretty sure that Joe had been missing since November 8th, at a minimum. This friend called the sheriff, and the sheriff goes out and finds his car at the trailhead to Mount Pelee. Dust is all over it. It had been there for a while. And that was the night of November 15th. So the Gila County Sheriff calls the Maricopa County Sheriff, and they get together. And a friend comes out and meets him. And they start to develop the profile on Joe. Well, they tell the sheriff that Joe just wasn't an average hiker. He was a super well-informed hiker, and in fact, had written articles about the area for HikeArizona.com and for ArizonaHikers.com. I heard that, and I sat back, and I sat up in my seat. He reminded me of a woman named Karen Sykes, who I wrote about in Missing 411 Washington. She actually wrote a book about an area she disappeared in. How's that for bizarre? Yeah. I think that's why the Washington book gets good reviews, because I've got some really good stories in there. But Joe kind of reminded me of a male version of Karen. They both disappear. Well, at 11 o'clock that night on November 15th, the sheriff found the car, starts to get resources together. They contact Flagstaff Search and Rescue, and they request an Arizona Department of Public Safety helicopter for the next day. Gila County transfers all responsibility because they determine it's in Maricopa County. So the search and rescue goes to them, but they call for mutual aid, and they get a lot of response. They also contacted Joe's son, who was living in Chicago, and explained to him that his dad's been missing for a number of days. He says, "I'm on the plane tomorrow morning." Chris gets on a plane in Chicago, flies to Phoenix, rents a car, and is on his way to Mount Pelee and to Joe's home. So they searched the 16th, they searched the 17th, And one of his friends finds a GPS track line that Joe made on what he proposed to take to the summit. And when search and rescue got it, they said, yeah, that's exactly the area we've been pounding now for 3 days. Oh, not good. Well, on the 18th and the 19th of November, canine teams were dropped by Arizona Department of Public Safety helicopter near the summit of the mountains. And they made their way down slowly. And then they also brought in a Maricopa mountaineering team of 10 to 15 highly skilled, highly trained rescuers to work the mountain that was tough to get to. Search and rescue continued officially and unofficially for a month. You do not see search and rescue going on for a month for anyone these days. I mean, I can't think of any recently. Tells you about the love that they had for this person and the number of people that cared about him and wanted to find him. As I've told you before, search and rescue is all about demand. If you keep telling the searchers and the sheriff, hey, I think we need to keep looking, we need to find him, most times, if they have the resources, they'll keep working. Well, unofficially and officially, they kept going. December 18th, there was an unofficial call out to all hikers on Joe's forum to come to Mount Pelee and search. And they did. It was a big turnout. And that was really the last huge push I could see for Joe Domin. About a month later, Joe's family all wrote a super nice thank you message to all the searchers and the sheriff. And we write off another individual missing in an area that I can't even fathom not finding him. I'm sorry, I can't. This isn't like searching in deep redwoods, pines, forests. There's no forest. Now, this area of Arizona, oh yeah, lots of UFO activity. How do I know? I've spoke at the Phoenix MUFON group multitude of times, and the conversations always start coming back to the amount of UFO activity in the mountains around. This area is one of them. What are they doing there? I don't know. But I find it extremely odd that 2 cases I find in the desert, one in 2008, one in 2010, one in June, one in November, a 67-year-old lady and a 68-year-old man. Odd. But I thank you for being here. Now, my movies. You can find Missing 411 The Hunted and Missing 411 The UFO Connection right now on Amazon. Please go there. Please watch. It will help you with your understanding of what's happening immensely. Please do it. And if you have a Facebook account or your Twitter or Truth Social, one of those, please put a review out there for it so others will know and go there and watch it. It would help us. Help us get the word out. There's a lot of people who won't read a book for whatever reason. But a lot of people like to watch movies. And I'm not bashful about sending people to watch the movies because my movies have always had really good reviews. So if you have the time, please do that for us. We'd be very grateful. In the meantime, please be kind. Share this video on your social media. Maria Estrada, Joe Domin, missing, not found. They're out there somewhere. Be kind. This is the kindness revolution. Paulides out.